Hello and welcome, I'm Maziel, and I have said for a while the storytelling in Warhammer 40k and Games Workshop, Black Library, whatever, has been going downhill in a long time. Now, I've been trying to sort of work out why this could be, because some of the earlier books were really good and a lot of fun, ignoring anything by CS Goto. And I think, especially with Warhammer 40k, okay, it stems from the statement they made when they said there are no good guys in 40k. Now, I know a lot of people think, oh, this is so edgy, this is so cool, this is it. To me, it's pathetic and isn't a good thing in any way. Now, I understand the setting of 40k is meant to be dark, it's meant to be grim, it's meant to be all that, lots of horrible things out in the darkness is ready to kill you. However, having no good guys in such a scenario is just depressing. I don't know what the word is. Anyway, it's because of this, I think Games Workshop's writing is going downhill. See, villains are easy to write. Villains are very easy to write. You don't need to justify their actions. They can do what they want. They are the villain of a piece. They have absolutely free reign to do whatever they please in your story because bad guy. They can even do good things because it might just be something that they're doing on a whim, or maybe for something in the bigger picture to further their cause, such as Kingpin in the Marvel Universe becoming mayor of New York City to start removing superheroes from New York City. You see, he seems to do good things, but in the end, it's always for the bad reasons. But when it comes to heroes, their actions need a lot more justification. They cannot just go out of their way and just slaughter everyone and anyone. I'm looking at you, Black Templars. Even then, they try to justify them themselves, which makes the Black Templars more anti-heroes than the actual good guys. So this is where we could see it's kind of going on. Let's go back to the start of the Horus Heresy series. Horus Lupercal was a good guy. He was a heroic. He was noble. He had good character. He was loyal to his legion, and people loved him because he was this fantastic guy. He was absolutely amazing, and he didn't just go, "Oopsie, I'm going to be a bad guy now. All of this was just leading up to this, and I'm a bad guy now. I don't need justification for it." And no, they had to justify his fall, and his fall was very well done. I think it's one of the best falls of a hero I've seen in fiction in a long time. He was manipulated. He was constantly being had sycophants around him, and when people would start saying no to him, first he was like, "Okay, I'm going to listen to you." Then it became a minor annoyance, and by the time his villain arc ended, he was just outright killing them. But there was justification for his fall, and he didn't just become a bad guy overnight. And if we do take a absolute villain of 140k, which is Conrad Kurz, he is out and out evil. We know this. But he believes himself to be the good guy. He does. But we know all his actions aren't for the betterment of other people. It's just his actions are to justify his actions. It's a circular logic. I only butcher and maim and torture people horrifically so less people die. Okay, now that's just circular logic. You're doing bad things, pretending they're good, so you can continue doing bad things. So when we look at heroes in fiction, and we're not talking about the hero's journey here, and the good guys, you always see that, yes, sometimes they do bad things. They do. I mean, if you look at Wildest Exodus, the Union are the good guys of that. Not just because of historical context, just in general, they are the good guys. They're trying to make America better for everyone. They're the ones who are trying to do treaties with the warrior nations. And they're the ones trying to look out against the big gribbly monsters in the dark with the Secret Service and technically they're not the Union, but they are part of the Union, the lawmen, with the, Agency of Internal Affairs. Okay? But they do some bad things, such as Ulysses S. Grant deciding to blow up Court of Richmond. It stopped the war, But it was an absolutely evil act. It is not to say that everyone in the Union is evil, but just Julius S. Grant is pretty twisted when it comes to anyone who wants to fight against the Union. Like, he doesn't care. If you're against the Union, you deserve to die. Makes him a bad guy, but the Union are good guys. Same with the Imperium. The Imperium should be the same thing. Yes, there can be some bad eggs in the Imperium. That doesn't make the whole. The whole of the Imperium should be the good guys. They are the ones fighting in the darkness. They are the ones making sure that the average Imperial citizen can sleep at night, not worrying about the next massive terror or big ugly monster coming to kill them. Sometimes, I'm not justifying their actions, but sometimes they do have to make the hard decisions. These are, an exterminatus just doesn't happen. They don't go, chaos on this planet, let's exterminate this. Look at Badab, look at Vrax. Exterminatus isn't the go-to for the Inquisition. They'd rather not do that. Planets have worth. Imperial citizens have worth. Not much worth, but they have worth. And that's what makes, the old stories like Vrax and Badab good. The Imperium were trying to make the right decisions and, not end the conflict so bloodily that, innocent civilians would have been killed by them. I mean, innocent civilians were killed, but not by them. This is why, in my opinion, The Emperor's Gifts, one of the worst books in the 40k canon. Because it took away one of the most coolest parts of 40k, this silent war between the Inquisition and the Space Wolves. No one was getting killed, but they weren't going to go near each other either. Like I said, heroes need justification to do the bad things. They need to justify it, not just to themselves, that's more of an anti-hero thing, but they need to justify it as a whole to the reader, to, you. You have to understand why what they're doing is actually a good thing, even though it seems bad. Not with lies or conceit or being deceptive. It has to be out and out honest on why they're doing it and why it will work out for everyone in the long run. Why it's, such as a surgeon busting open someone's rib cage to fix their heart. There's going to be a lot of damage done, but in the end, it's for the right reasons. I actually quite like that analogy. I do. However, this kind of problem when you make everyone the villain or everyone the bad guy, you take away all justification. Even on, outside of that, you can just add anything you want because, quote unquote, Imperium, quote unquote, chaos. You can do it for that reason, rather than actually adding a proper reason to it. See, if chaos are doing something bad, yes, it's chaos, right? We understand that. That's fine. However, if it's the Imperium doing something bad, yeah, that's going to need some justification. That we need to know why that's happening. And when you say are no good guys and everyone's a villain, then it just boils down to because they're the Imperium. And again, this just doesn't work in a setting when, like 40k, you need the good guys, such as the Eldari. The Eldari are good guys. Yes, they tend to turn their back on the Imperium and just after a war just end up slaughtering them or tell them to get off their planet. But their goal has always been survival of their race. So when they have a planet and the Imperium's on it, they're going to tend to go away. And if they don't go away, they're going to make them go away and ends up in war. But their justification is always the survival of their species. The Imperium's justification usually is survival as well, because up until the Vasilictrix Maledictum, the Imperium was always meant to be fighting on the back foot. They were always defending. It was always meant to be a defensive battle. It was very rarely an invasion or an offensive attack. It was an Imperial world was being attacked, and the Imperium had to respond. Once again, look at Vrax. Even Badab could be seen that way because it was a political invasion. When her and Blackheart, really? Couldn't guess by his name? Or was it Blackheart? Whatever. And he had, he just had an evil villain name. Must have been a big giveaway. Took over the planet and, started worshipping chaos and started paying taxes. And then the Imperium got involved. Again, it was a political invasion of Badab. No, that's the Maelstrom. Damn it, I got that one wrong. Anyway, continuing on. And so that's the thing. Now, the problem with this bad writing, and you no longer have to justifying a faction's, raison d'etre. or that reasoning for an action, this can spill out into the actual community as well. And we saw this with Kesh, the female custodies. And the justification was there was always female custodians. Okay, fine, that's what you justified. First, I don't take anything written on Twitter as canon, so no. And secondly, where were they? This isn't one of those things where absence of evidence is evidence of absence, right? No, because this would have really shown up. This would have been something that we would have seen. We have plenty of books on custodies and never mentioned. If they had tried to justify something in the book and why suddenly they had female custodies, it would have been a lot better. But given the fact that now no one is a good guy and they're all villains and they're all bad guys, there was no need for justification anymore. There wasn't a need for it. Same with the Terminus Decree. It's a letter in a box saying, I owe you one donut. No, it doesn't. It says, put the Emperor back on his chair. And again, it's no justification to this. Why would the Grey Knights do this? Why wouldn't the Custodians do this? Why wouldn't the Sisters of Silence do this? Why pretty much wipe out an entire chapter to put the Emperor back on his chair? Why would the Grey Knights even want that as well? And let alone 10,000 years later, we know that, the Imperium can work pretty well without the Astronomicon. We've seen this. We've seen this with I won't say Imperius Secundus, but it's not called that because that's the regular one. The north part of it, where the Blood Angels are, the Dark Angels are, is working well without the Astronomicon because of the Silitrix Maledictum. But again, with everyone being a villain, there's just no justification needed. So just to sort of round this off, because I think I've made my point pretty clearly. When everyone's a villain, no one is. Because when no one needs to justify their actions, there is no justification for them. When you have a hero who needs to justify his actions, you make an interesting story. You make a reason for them to act this way and how that affects them personally. A good guy doing a bad thing will always feel bad about it. It's never going to be something that makes them feel good. We get more interesting stories when there's a dichotomy of good and evil. And I mean good and evil, not evil and less evil. And this has all bled out into making stories worse. The stories are not as good as they were. They are a lot less interesting and not as well written. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to see you all again soon. And I hope you're having a lovely day. And if you wish to save money on your wargaming, of course, as always, I will. There's Wayland Games down below. They are fantastic and I love them for it. They have up to 20% off, wargaming, Warhammer, Horus Heresy, all that stuff. And free delivery off to £20. There's also, what else is there also? There is also Forbidden Planet for comics, DVDs, mangas. There's my merchandise, comics, and t-shirts. There's Skyforge, good friend of mine. And finally, Patreon because business. Bye-bye.